here. Thank you for tuning in on this busy holiday time. And some folks joining us live, and I know many people may be watching this recorded. So whatever the case, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in on this busy holiday time. My name is Susan Alden, and I'm excited to share with you this class today called Love Your Gut. So I'm going to share my screen here. And we will get started. Let me just check one thing here. All right. So Love Your Gut. We are here to talk about gut health and the gut-brain connection. And again, my name is Susan Alden. Oops, let me adjust here. Okay. Are you seeing it okay now? Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing these slides okay. All right. So again, my name is Susan Alden, and I'm an Army veteran and spouse of a Green Beret, career Green Beret, and mom of 2 teen boys. I'm a certified yoga therapist specializing in adaptive yoga and mental health. So I've worked a lot in the Department of Veterans Affairs and Department of Defense, integrating holistic modalities into programs there. And I also have a background in functional medicine. So my primary teacher has been, well, it started with my mother, who was a functional medicine practitioner back before they were even calling them functional medicine practitioners. But I've also trained with some folks like Andrea Nakayama and other people in the functional medicine community. So, and I share these pictures of me in India because that is where my own gut health journey began. Even though I've worked with lots of people who had struggled with gut health issues, particularly people that had gone through trauma or chronic stress, we were seeing lots and lots of gut health issues. But my own journey with that happened when I came back from a lengthy trip to India, where I came back with some parasites and really extreme bacterial infection. And so I really started diving into how to not only heal from that, but improve my gut health for the long term. So I didn't hopefully have to deal with anything like that before. So I'll share a little bit about that along the way. But today, here's the basis of what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about your gut microbiome, the gut-brain connection, pre and probiotics, what's the difference, and how you can use them together, nootropics, and I'm going to give you some healthy tips that you can do right now to improve your gut and brain health. So we'll start with, let's just define microbiome. So what is it? Well, microbiome is a collection of microorganisms that live on and in us to support our health. In fact, if we didn't have microbiome, we would not live very long at all. If we were sterile, we wouldn't live very long because they're so critical to our health. And it's interesting, the National Institute of Health, NIH, did a study, a lengthy study called the Human Microbiome Project. And they found that the number of microorganisms in our body is trillions and trillions, and that they actually outnumber the amount of human cells we have in our body. So even though those microbial cells are much smaller, we have many, many more of them than we do our other cells. And where is our microbiome? Well, it's all throughout our body. We have microbiome in our mouth, our nose, our genitalia, our gut, of course, as well as our skin. And so think about that as you're, washing your hands to keep your hands sterilized, in the midst of this pandemic. Know that you're also killing off helpful microbiome that we pick up through our skin. Why should you care about your microbiome? Well, it is essential to all aspects of our health. So our metabolism, our cardiovascular health, our immune health, our oral health, of course, our gut health, and also our brain health. And we're going to talk about those two today. So, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that your gut microbiome is as unique to you as your fingerprint. So, it's really everybody's microbiome is different, even with people that you live with in the same household, right? And so there's many things that affects this, and it comes down to really epigenetics versus genetics. So, of course, some of our gut microbiome are impacted by our genome, the genes that our parents handed down to us, but what's more of a factor is the choices that we make in terms of what we eat and how we live. So, epigenetics is a really interesting field. And what we have learned through the study of epigenetics is that 97% of our genome is impacted by the choices we make. So, in other words, you're really not a victim of your heredity. And that's kind of a paradigm shift because we're used to going into the doctor and and filling out our family medical history. But in reality, a greater what has a greater impact on our health are the lifestyle that we live, the toxins that we're taking in through our air and our water, even the EMFs, all these, as much time as we've spent in front of a computer or with our phone, being held up to not only our ear, but close to our brain, the medications that we might take, and certainly the stress that we are under, or how we might manage that stress. In fact, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's a well-known molecular biologist, he calls epigenetics the new science of self-empowerment. So I think that's really powerful, especially when we think of our gut health, which is absolutely foundational to our overall health. So we get the opportunity to really think about how we can shift our health, because when we work on our gut health, we know that that is impacting our overall health. And I think you'll understand that a bit more clearly by the end of this presentation. So let's have a little gut check. Now, a study from NYU Medical Center found that 74% of Americans have chronic gut health issues. And yes, they were just studying Americans. I know we have lots of international folks in our Activating You page and within our community that we're sharing this, but I would say you could probably expand that and just say people in modernized countries in anywhere in the West, there are gut health issues, and largely because of the processed foods that we're taking in. Now, an interesting fact is that of those 74%, more than half of them never share that information with their doctors or their healthcare professionals. So, what are some of the contributing factors that help us to get in this terrible gut health shape? Well, stress is probably top of that list, and I know this for many people, ourselves included, my family included. This has been a stressful year. 2020 has been a tough one. Good thing it's close to ending here. Stress is a serious contributing factor. Our diet, of course, our genetics do impact us. Antibiotics have a huge impact on our gut health. Antibiotics and the medications we take, the mode of delivery, how we were born, whether we were breastfed or not, and then lifestyle, and not just what you do every day, but where you've traveled, what you've been exposed to. So, think back in your mind, what are the contributing factors that might play a role in your gut health? And you might be like me, like I did not grow up taking many antibiotics. In fact, I can only think of one time as a child that I had antibiotics. The second time I had a round of antibiotics from a doctor was in India when I was really struggling to get through my trip. So I had not been exposed to many antibiotics, which we know will kill both the good and bad bacteria in our gut. So what you think, well, where am I maybe taking in other antibiotics? Well, the CDC knows that the majority, like 70% of the antibiotics in the US are actually sold for food production animals. And that includes, our dairy cows, our cows that are used for meat products, our chickens, they are injected with antibiotics. And then we are ingesting these meat products or dairy products if you choose to eat meat and dairy. So you're taking in the antibiotics through those food sources. And one of the things that's happening is the amount of antibiotics that we're taking in, either through, what our medical treatments, or our food intake are creating these antibiotic resistant bacterial infections, which interestingly enough, 35,000 people will die of every year. So, I had an antibiotic resistant bacterial infection, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go along. So, right now, come back to your own health and well-being, and I want you to really think about what kind of things you might struggle with day in and day out, or have struggled with in the past, or maybe even a loved one is struggling with these. These are all signs of poor gut health: chronic fatigue, food cravings, allergies, mood issues, migraines, autoimmune conditions, food intolerance, upset stomach, any kind of sleep disturbances or unintentional weight changes, brain fog, abnormal elimination, and that could be constipation or it could be diarrhea. And then more serious things like IBS or Crohn's or ulcerative colitis can be a concern as well. So know that if you are experiencing any of these signs of poor gut health, that your immune system has also been compromised. And why is that? Well, because 70% of your immune system actually exists in your gut. So this is obviously a crucial time for our immune system to be in top shape. And so know that as you improve your gut health, you are also going to increase your immunity. And that is so very important right now, as we all well know. So let's get to the bottom of it. Let's really think about when we say gut, what are we talking about? So I want to orient you a bit. If you look at this picture on the left, you have your large intestine that kind of wraps around the small intestine. So your large intestine, believe it or not, is about 5 to 6 feet long and 3 inches in diameter. Okay, so it's lengthy. And then your small intestine, yes, it's smaller in diameter, but it's actually 22 feet long. And so, you have all these folds and twists and turns, right? And think about your food has to move through all of that. So you can see why digestion could be, if you're not digesting food well, how things can get kind of stuck there, right? And that's where we start to see issues like diverticulitis. Most of your food absorption happens in the small intestine, but I like to say the dirty work actually happens in the large intestine, and that is where 95% of your microbiome exists. So your colon or your large intestine is the most densely populated microbial system on earth, believe it or not. And it's also where we see gut health issues such as colorectal cancer, diverticulitis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, things like this. So if you look at this picture on the right, you'll see that you have your stomach here, the small intestine. This is representative of the small intestine, and then the large intestine or your colon down to your anus. And all these little doodads here are supposed to represent your microbiome, with the bulk of it being in the lower digestive tract or your large intestine. You'll take note of you don't see microbiome in your stomach, or at least very many. And that is by design, because you want your stomach acids. Your stomach acids are nice and strong when you're healthy. And that is supposed to kill any bacteria that comes in that you may ingest. Maybe you ate food that set out too long, or, who knows what's happening in a restaurant. Or maybe it wasn't cooked well enough. Whatever the case, you don't have to go to India to have, to get some bacteria into your digestive tract. So if your stomach acids are strong, it's killing off that bad bacteria, and hopefully it's never getting down into your small intestine or large intestine at all. So think about this, though, in terms of good bacteria. So if you are consuming probiotic food or other probiotics, they could be getting eaten by the stomach acid as well and not getting down into the lower digestive tract. So just something to keep in mind. Now, we are often hearing our gut called our second brain, which is so fascinating, right? And you think, how is my gut my second brain? You might think that that gut feeling, or in Hawaii we say, you feel it in your ow, right? Well, it's really true. Your gut is like your second brain, because there's microbes in your gut that produce signals which travel through the body and to your brain. And we call this the gut-brain axis. So your gut is intimately linked with your brain. And when your body is balanced, scientists have found that your gut bacteria, or essentially your gut microbiome, produce neurotransmitters such as dopamine, norepinephrine, and GABA, which are critical for mood, reducing anxiety, sustaining concentration, motivation, and various aspects of mental health. And another one of those neurotransmitters that your gut produces is called serotonin. Actually, 90% of the serotonin is manufactured in your gut and not your brain, interestingly enough. So, why do I mention serotonin? Well, many antidepressants work by increasing serotonin. But here's the thing, if our gut is in good shape, our then we're producing that serotonin naturally. And so while we might need some kind of, antidepressant or anti-anxiety, or, some kind of pharmaceutical that's helping us produce these good neurotransmitters, we're looking over the long term health, right? So, what can we do over the long term? And it's really improving our gut health. There's a great article written by a doctor in Psychology Today where she champions probiotics, not Prozac, because we know that taking any kind of drug over the long term is not, it's not good for us. It's certainly not good for our liver. So these are all things that we can do naturally. Boost our gut health is going to improve our brain health. And know that your gut is also lined with 100 million nerve cells. That's actually more than in your spinal cord and peripheral nervous system. So, if you're feeling like, especially in this holiday season where I know I personally am consuming things that are not so gut friendly, and you're feeling kind of a little moody, that could be why. So, another important aspect of that gut brain axis is something called the vagus nerve. And I like to call it the superhighway between your gut and your brain. It's a bidirectional nerve that explains that gut feeling. And what I mean by that is when there is some kind of stressor or even some kind of danger, like say you are smelling smoke and you immediately, kind of go to the kitchen and see what could be burning, or you hear a loud crash and you rush outside to see what it was, and there's something that it's your fight or flight system that is jumping in, right? Well, when that happens, all digestion shuts down. That signal goes immediately to your gut, and has an impact on your gut, because when you are springing into action, certainly into a dangerous situation or potentially dangerous situation, digestion is the last thing your body is thinking about. Well, interestingly enough, the same way works with chronic stress. So our brain is sending signals through our all of our senses into our gut, saying that something's not quite right. So there's a direct impact. This is why chronic stress and why trauma has such an impact on gut health. And that's something I certainly saw in working with people who had been in a combat environment, or dealing with sexual traumas, that they almost always had some kind of gut health issues. So this superhighway, the vagus nerve, is profound implications for understanding things like, unintentional weight gain, eating disorders, immune issues, arthritis, depression. And it's also one of the reasons why yoga and meditation work. And so I just have to make this little plug and say, the yoga and meditation work to activate the rest and digest part of your nervous system. When you take time to just relax and breathe and slow down that nervous system, calm the nervous system, it will have a positive impact on your gut. So just like the stress and trauma can have a negative impact on your gut, contemplative practices that activate that rest and digest, or the parasympathetic nervous system, will have a positive impact on your gut health. So, as promised, I wanted to share just 7 simple things that you can do to improve your gut health. Here are simple things, and probably most of you know these, but it's good to be reminded that mindful eating matters. Getting outside and getting moving really makes a difference. So if you feel like your bowels aren't moving, maybe you need to get moving a little bit. Reducing processed foods, getting more sleep. Of course, doing some kind of breathing, meditation, yoga every day to activate that rest and digest part of your nervous system. And then the one thing I'd like to mention specifically, especially in this holiday season, boy, it's tough, but in the functional medicine community, we call it cleaning up the muddy waters. And that's cutting back or maybe even eliminating the big three. So the big three being gluten, uh, dairy, and processed sugar. So why? Well, those three have a big impact on our gut health. And we also know that as we age, those become harder and harder for us to digest well. So if you are really having some gut health issues, I recommend that try cutting out all three or even one or two, eliminate those, and then you can gradually try adding them back in. So you know exactly what might trigger your poor gut health. But that is often key in getting ourselves back into good gut health. And I know it's hard during the holiday season, that is for sure, because I love a good piece of pie and all these cookies and wonderful things that people keep bringing to my house. And so it is the holiday season, but maybe you think about like how not to take in so much, and then maybe in the new year even challenge yourself to try eliminating the big three, even if it was for a week or maybe a month, and see how you feel. So here are some other tools that you can use to get your health back in shape from top to bottom and bottom to top. So probiotics, prebiotics, and nootropics. And I'm going to break each one of these down. So the first, probiotics. You've probably heard of probiotics. I think most people have these days. But a probiotic, what it really is a microorganism, usually a bacteria, that's been shown to have beneficial effects on your overall health, but specifically your microbiome composition. So some examples of probiotic foods are yogurt, kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi. And if you have some favorites that aren't listed, please put those in the chat. We'd love to hear your input about those, but that's probiotics. Now, a prebiotic, this is something a little different. This is prebiotics are compounds that are found in food that induce the growth of the beneficial microorganisms in your gut. And they include like plant fibers, fruit fibers, and other non-digestible complex sugars like polysaccharides. So inulin, for example, is an example. So some of foods with prebiotic fibers are chicory root rather, seaweed, dandelion greens, Jerusalem artichoke, garlic. These are all things that have prebiotic fibers. So all kinds of great phytonutrients there. Now, nootropics are nutritional supplements or other substances that support cognitive ability, memory, creative motivation, and particularly executive function. So examples of food with nootropic properties are green tea, salmon, dark leafy greens, broccoli sprouts. These are great sources. Again, you can put some in the chat if you have some other ideas. So, but for a moment, I want to just circle back around and share a little bit of my story and how I get a transition to the specific products that I'm going to share with you. So I mentioned, I came back from India not feeling too well, even though I did take a round of antibiotics while I was there. And I did that very mindfully with a bit of hesitation, but also with a desire to get through my trip. And when I landed back at home 2 months later, I was still struggling. I was feeling pretty bad, actually. And so I went straight to my doctor, and they did some testing and they prescribed another round of antibiotics. It was a 4-day treatment. And they said, you should feel better after about day 2 or 3. Well, by day 3, I was questioning whether I wanted to take day 4 because I knew that I was killing off all the good bacteria and I was not feeling any better. So I was questioning whether the bad bacteria was getting killed off. And sure enough, my doctor called me that day and he said, we are so sorry, but we did further testing and it turns out that the bacteria that you have, those antibiotics are not going to kill that bacteria, but we can try another one that should work. And at that point I was like, I'm not ready for shoulds. I'm ready for something that I know is going to work. And so I decided to trust my body versus trust the antibiotics that were kind of wrecking my gut, the entire balance of my gut microbiome. And very divinely, a dear friend called me that week and she said, I would like to share some really extraordinary products with you. And this is a friend of mine from the functional medicine community, from our Native Hawaiian healing community. She's actually my Lomi sister. And I knew that she's the kind of person that is growing the herbs in her backyard and you know, pounding them or making tinctures and sharing them with the neighbors. So I knew that if she was sharing these products, that they were of true, not only high quality, but high quality in terms of the integrity behind how the products are made. So one of the first things she shared with me after I told her my story was this LifeVantage Probio. And this is a really amazing combination of probiotic microorganisms, 6 billion CFUs that are designed to support not only your gut health, but your immune system. So remember, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. Actually, some doctors say even a bit more. Now, here is what is in it. So we say 6 billion CFUs, and I'll be honest, at the time I was getting product off the shelf that was like 80 billion, and I thought more is better. And what I learned is it's actually the specific combination. So it's the very specific strains really matter. And so here's the strains. And then what's also unique, and I've highlighted here, is this has something that's called Wellmune, which is a very specific formulation of beta glucans. And I won't go into the science behind this, but this is something designed to really activate the immune cells in your gut. So it makes this product really quite unique. And another thing that makes this product very, very unique is something that's called the BioTrek technology, or DR caps technology in some markets. So when you take most probiotics, there are capsulated in veggie caps, and those veggie caps disintegrate in your stomach. They move through your digestive tract in about 7 minutes. So they're literally disintegrating within the stomach. And now you remember, your stomach has all these stomach acids. If you're building up your stomach acid, and if you're feeling healthy, then it's killing off bad bacteria, but it's also killing off good bacteria. So this BioTrek technology is time released, so it gets into your system over the span of about 1 to 10 hours. And here's what it looks like. So on the left, this is what the Probio, the LifeVantage Probio looks like. It's in these little round capsules versus the veggie caps, which we know through clinical studies, only about 4% actually gets into your lower digestive tract, versus at least 60% of it will get into, of those good microorganisms will get down into the lower intestines, which is where you need it, right? Where your most densely populated microorganisms are. So in the delivery system alone, this product is 15 times more effective. And I tell you, when you're in gut distress, I felt this difference rather significantly. I felt this in a matter of weeks, because I could sense that the microorganisms, the beneficial microorganisms, were really getting into my gut and restoring that balance. So here's another product that will help restore that gut balance, that gut microbiome balance. These are prebiotics. So you remember, these are prebiotics. These are phytonutrients, plant fibers that are designed to feed the good microorganisms in your gut. And here are the ingredients. Again, these are all natural plant fibers, and they are specifically helpful if you're experiencing any blockages, gastrointestinal blockages, constipation, hemorrhoids. There's been some studies showing that prebiotics will lower the risk of diverticulitis. So these are all feeding your microbiome. You can see here, I mentioned inulin earlier. Inulin is one of the major components of this. It's derived from chicory root. It's also brown seaweed extract. So these are all plant and fruit fibers. And it also has an extraordinary amino acid blend, which is very helpful as well. So I want you to think of this pair as, if the probiotics are like your seeds, the seeds that you're planting, the good bacteria in your gut, the prebiotic is like the fertilizer. And so they're going to help those probiotics to work even better in your gut. Now, one thing I want you to be really aware of is that if you are dealing with a known bacterial infection, which I was, um, you want to, you might not want to start with prebiotics, just start with the probiotics. And so think about it in terms of your garden. If you are, planting some seeds in your garden, but you did no weeding whatsoever, and you just started throwing fertilizer around, what's going to happen? Well, your seeds, your plants are going to grow, the desired plants are going to grow, but your weeds are also going to grow. So that's where it might be helpful to do some elimination um, of those big three, or maybe even some fasting can help if you are eliminating bad bacteria or parasites. And again, there's whole specific protocols for that, and I'm happy to help give you some feedback on that if that's specifically what you might be dealing with. But generally speaking, if you're not dealing with any kind of known bacterial infection, this is a powerful pair, right? They will make the probiotics work even better. And particularly in the holiday season, I know personally, all the yummies, they tend to get us all blocked up. And so the prebiotic can really help get things moving. So another thing that's really helpful to get things moving and to strengthen that gut brain axis is Axio. So Axio is an all natural nootropic beverage. I like to call it smart energy that supports the gut brain axis. Now, we do have all kinds of other brain related products, such as our omegas, which is a powerful blend of omegas, traceable from boat to bottle. But I love Axio because it's also hydration. So this is a beverage that's good for your brain, but it supports that gut health. Because one of the things is when we're dealing with gut health issues, people tend to be chronically dehydrated. So Axio improves mental endurance, mental acuity, concentration, and memory attention. It enhances that neurotransmitter function that I mentioned along the gut-brain axis, and it supports your brain and your body's resilience to stress. Very important, particularly this time of year. It reduces mental fatigue and brain fog, gives you a little lift. And it's also helpful in increasing your physical and mental energy. And I also find it something really great to use when you're fighting off cravings. So instead of reaching for that snack, that's maybe not so good for your overall health and specifically your gut health, making, and I love to make it in a jar. I always make mine in a jar and then put it in a pretty glass. But this can help to fight off your cravings. So what's in it? Well, you could kind of categorize the ingredients into three groups: nutrients, compounds, and antioxidants. The nutrients that support nerve conductivity are B vitamins and magnesium, something that's often deficient in most of our Western diets. There's specific compounds that bind to receptors on the neurons to support brain function, specifically DMAE and L-theanine. There's antioxidant protection in the green tea extract, the quercetin, and the pine bark extract. Pine bark is an amazing plant medicine. Maybe write that down and look that up. There's so much we could share about that. These are also direct and indirect antioxidants that flip on a pathway that we call the NRF2 pathway. So this is like your detoxification genes that help your body fight free radicals, which are directly linked to not only a decline in mental and physical performance, but aging in general. So this is one of our absolute family favorite products. It's great for all ages. My aging parents have used this. You can see this is my little boy who we homeschool. He loves Axio, uses it every day at his school here at home. It is all natural, vegetarian, and free of artificial flavors or colors. Sweetened with 100% natural stevia. We do have a flavor that's sweetened with monk fruit. That is important because, again, we're trying to eliminate the processed sugars. So stevia will not feed candida or parasites, which is really good if you're going through a detox or cleanse. It's also GMO and gluten-free, and there's 3 flavors with some with caffeine and one with decaf. There's also some new flavors, and actually, let's see, I think we still have a special going on. I know some of these have sold out, but if you want to try some of the new flavors, there is a special where you can buy 2 and get 1 50% off. And then lastly, I want to share this. Let's see, I'm going to copy it and put it in our chat here so you can access some more information if this felt like it was quite a lot, and I know it is a lot of information. Let's see, I'm going to check it. There we go. All right, I am going to share this link with you, which you can copy and paste and put it in your browser, and you can download these 3 documents. So one, it's an article I wrote on gut health, and it includes all this information that I've shared, plus some more. So I talk about hormones and the links to gut health and hormones. And you can click into anything that's hyperlinked and see additional research or more articles. You could really spend a lot of time reading through this to just give yourself some more information. There's also a document that's called 10 Tips for Digestion, which just helpful things to include how to boost your stomach acid. That's a question I get a lot of times, like, how do I improve my stomach acid? Because, I've been dealing with heartburn, so that's a really good thing to just read about and easy to integrate into your life. And then there's also a yeast questionnaire if you think that candida might be an issue that you're dealing with. So have a look at those. You're welcome to download those. And again, you can reach back out to whoever invited you to this call to link you to me, or they can also answer your questions. And I wanted to end with saying that all of these products are brought to you by a company called LifeVantage, which we are at the forefront of nutrigenomics. I'm really proud to have been a part of this company for about 18 months. It's a publicly traded company that truly aligns with my sense of purpose and core values and my deep desire to continue to serve and support people all over the world. And so I know you were invited to this call by someone on our team or another team, and we are just blessed that we get to work with so many amazing people. So that is probably one of the greatest joys. And if you're interested in joining our team, please reach out to them. They can tell you how. And then if you'd like to learn more about our cellular activation products, I invite you to join my dear friend Kamaile Pua'oi, who shares about this NRF2 activation that, again, is a part of the Axia beverage, but we have a whole line of cellular activators. And I will say that in addition to these tools that I've shared today, the cellular activation products were the things that really helped me to completely detox after a really challenging time. So it took my health to the next level, and I love seeing it take other people's health to the next level. These are extraordinary products that have been researched by third-party institutions such as the American Heart Association, NIH, Vanderbilt, LSU, you name it, all kinds of leading medical institutions. There's a great study from Washington State University where they talk about NRF2 activation may become the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. And that made me personally stop in my tracks. I came to this, this venture because of the gut health products that I've shared with you today. But what has really been the game changer has been this. So I really encourage you to check out the cellular activation products and learn how they work synergistically with everything that I've shared with you today. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen to ask any questions you might have. One of the questions I usually get, which I'll go ahead and address, is when should you take your prebiotics and probiotics? And I personally take mine in the morning. I like to take them when I first get up in the morning on an empty stomach. I take the Probio, and I also take my prebiotic. And part of that is because I like the hydration first thing in the morning. I also do warm lemon water, which helps to flush the liver, but and also boost the stomach acids, which is helpful. But I also know some people like to drink it later in the day. They mix their prebiotic with the Axia. Lots of different ways, but remember, you don't necessarily have to take our probiotics on an empty stomach because of that time release technology. It's going to get into the digestive tract. Your body knows how to deliver it to where it needs to be and when it needs to be there. So it doesn't necessarily matter when you take it, as long as you take it. And in fact, over the holidays, sometimes I take it in the morning. And if I've had kind of not eaten so well throughout the day, I might even take a little bit at night before I go to bed, which can be very helpful because, everything's restoring itself at night. So that's one question I always like to address. Anybody else have any other questions? Any thoughts? You can type it in the chat, or I can also unmute you. Any questions? Let me see. I'll look on our Facebook page and see if anybody's asking a question there. All right. I don't see any questions. Oh, here's one. Okay, Abby. Been taking the pre and probiotic for 3 weeks, and it's really helped with nursing my 7-month-old. Awesome. Noticeable difference. Oh, that's so great, Abby. Thank you for sharing. Yes, these products are safe to use if you're a nursing mama or a pregnant mama. I absolutely, this is really great stuff to integrate into your prenatal care, postnatal care, or your anytime care. Again, any age. I use these with my kids. Been very, very helpful for our whole family. All right. Well, if there's no questions, I wish you a wonderful day, happy holidays, and look forward to seeing you again along the way.